It's the PHNX Suns podcast. I broke Gerald. I got him. I got him. I am not Lindsey Smith, as you can tell by this rough start to the show. I'm Aspo, joined with Saul and Gerald. Gentlemen.
PHNX Suns podcast, otherwise known as a dumpster fire.
I wasn't ready.
My freestyle rap just ain't that good. I'm sorry. How are you guys today?
That was the understatement of the year. We good?
I'm good. Yeah.
All right, great. Yeah, this is just spectacular. We got plenty to talk about today, but one place I want to start, because everybody loves talking about this kind of stuff, is ownership news.
Mm-hmm, sure.
Or kind of one name that isn't going to be on the list anymore. Today on the Bill Simmons podcast, Mr. Simmons, who the show's named after, had a little tidbit about one Bob Iger, who wanted to be the newest Suns owner.
As we always heard his name floated around for different things. Like, would he be involved with the Rams or the Chargers? Well, that didn't happen. Would he be involved maybe with the Phoenix Suns? That seemed to be the latest thing that people were throwing his name. Oh, Iger's got a group. I know, and maybe I'm reporting this, but I know that Robert Sarver, the Suns owner, said flat out, I'm not selling the team to Iger or any group that has Iger, because he blamed Iger for the ESPN story that took down Sarver and led to him having to sell the team. So I think once that was out there,
that's interesting.
Yeah. How about that? A little nugget for you. I'm swimming in your pool. Yeah. I think Sarver genuinely blamed him for that piece and was like, I'm not selling to this guy. So I think once Iger realized that he didn't have a chance at the Suns, maybe that heated up the Disney thing. But I also think once you leave your dream job and you think you can still do it, that has to be tough for him too, right?
So Bob Iger surprisingly announced as the new old CEO of Disney on Sunday night, but I found this very interesting because he had been one of the early names mentioned as being part of an ownership group with the Suns as far back as last November. I believe it was, long before the team was actually for sale. Sounds like he's not going to have any opportunity whatsoever due to spite.
Yeah, he led one of the biggest growths in Disney history from I believe 2005 to like 2020, 21, and obviously led the streaming part of things. The revenue was at an all-time high. So I could understand why people were excited about the potential that he would be the one to take over, but we forgot about that guy, right? How you always put it, the disgraced
former owner
of the Suns, and how petty and how bitter he still is at this. And listen, I think Sarver is going to do his very best, and I mean, I don't think I'm really sugarcoating this at all. I think he's going to do his very best to get somebody in to the frame that he thinks is going to do a worse job than him.
Satan on line one.
I mean, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me you don't think that, because it's a vanity play for him.
Oh yeah.
And he wants to be like, see, if I was still there, we'd have gone back to the finals again. And he wants this place to become a dumpster fire after he's gone. But the NBA would never allow that.
Who would be worse? What, is Dan Snyder calling? Is James Dolan going to go, I don't want the Knicks anymore? Can I have the Suns? Like, knock on wood. Who the hell would be worse?
Again, the NBA would have to sign off on whoever came in. And if somebody came with a lot of baggage, they're not getting this gig.
Here comes Elon Musk, one dumpster fire for another.
Jesus.
Hey, if he pays $44 billion for the Suns, I'd be pretty impressed.
Oh God. Yeah, no, that's unfortunate. I think we all knew that
Elon would take the team and then cut half the guys right off the bat. Booker, TA, we don't need you. Let's cut some costs around here.
You don't need 5 guys. What do you need 15 for? We'll go 5.
Lord help us.
And then the fans can pay $8 a month to ride the bench. It's fine.
Oh, Lord help us. Yeah, that's unfortunate, because I know Bob Iger was a guy that was at the top of a lot of our lists as far as a potential owner who might actually do a good job. Obviously, a lot of these billionaires that we're going to be talking about all come with a checkered past of some sort. Like, they've all got things that, you make a lot of money. There's chances are you've done something bad at some point. But like, I don't know. It's unfortunate. We knew his net worth wasn't that extensive, so he'd have to be kind of at the front of a bigger ownership group. But if this is true, it's not going to matter who he attaches to it. Sarver's going to see that name and be like, no.
But to to be a guy like him, you'd imagine he could have attracted a lot of wealthy people to be part of a group. I don't think that would have been a problem. And I won't lie, the first thing I thought when I heard he was going back to Disney was, he didn't have enough money by himself, but with the power of Disney behind him. And then I heard Simmons. I was like, yeah, that makes a hell of a lot more sense.
Yeah. I mean, again, like, we got to be clear here. This was never just a Bob Iger himself play. No. Like, yes, his net worth is around $800 million. So he would have had to bring some other people into the fold. But with his reputation and how he handled Disney after the former CEO, which his name is escaping me, but he's very popular too, Eisner. He just carried on a tradition, made some shrewd moves, got Disney, into the technical space in terms of streaming far ahead of a lot of other companies. And listen, I mean, Disney has a great reputation. It took a hit in the year he was gone. And I know this because my wife is obviously a big Disney nerd and she fills me in on all this stuff. So it kind of worked out to my advantage. Finally, Disney finally paid off. And again, I think that's why people might have been a little bit excited about his potential stake in an ownership group. But unfortunately, it doesn't look like that's going to come.
Can we move away from the Bob Iger part of this, though? Sure. I want to talk about the disgraced future former owner part of this. How petty is this? Not I did something wrong. It's I want to blame the guy whose company and somebody lower down in that company wrote an article about the shit I did that got me in trouble. I don't want this guy to own the team. It's not, there's no ever any real culpability, any real, I did something wrong. It's blame the other guy.
Well, look, this is going to shock you. I'm a stickler for the rules, so it upsets me that he's even having any influence on this at all, because technically speaking, he's supposed to be suspended and away from this. We know that's probably not what's actually happening, so it doesn't surprise me. It is an unfortunate thing. Like, you knew as soon as they took his team away from him that he was going to go out like this in any way, shape, or form that he could and be as petty about it as possible. But
I do want to clear something up, and maybe you can help me with this. Maybe I'm missing something. But yes, he's suspended from the team, and he can't have any team involvement. But I don't think that precludes him from researching or taking interests in terms of selling the franchise. I think that's what the NBA wants him to do. That's why they were supportive in his decision to do that. I don't think that this prevents anything. I know the suspension I felt like the suspension was more in-house basketball, day-to-day, being around the team, being at games and things of that nature. But in terms of externally and selling the team, you have to have Sarver involved. How would you not be able to?
But technically, he was suspended from business side operations as well, which this would be part of those decisions. But I think the league is like, look, if you're going to get out, you're going to be a part of deciding what offers accepted.
Well, I think it was more business operations.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily think selling the franchise would be part of that. So
I can't imagine. I mean, that would,
because then we'd be on pause for a year.
Yeah,
we wouldn't be able to do anything because he's got to sign off. And if he doesn't talk to a single person through this whole thing, well, Bob, we're just going to wait until December of next year, and then we'll sign on the dotted line. Well,
we just need your fingerprint on your little house arrest son's logo. Son's logo, house arrest.
We'll undo that anklet, and you can come over to the bank and sign all this. Yeah, all of a sudden,
Sarver's in Shawshank. I love it.
I get the idea that, I get why he'd be petty in this, but man, Iger with his pedigree, everything most things that were said about him as a CEO, as a leader, that felt like the kind of person you'd want at the top. Now, I still want Lorraine Jobs. That's still who I'm holding out for. I think she would be great as the new owner here and has the capital to do it. But Iger was close to top of my list too.
Yeah, I don't really know who I necessarily am excited about because, again, I think a lot of these people that are interested outside of like the Bezoses of the world are going to have an ownership group around them. And I don't know who's going to be part of that ownership group. So you might like somebody that's at the head or the face of that ownership group, but there might be 3 or 4 other individuals that you're like, oh my gosh, I'd rather not, So I think this is all. We still got a long way to go on this. I haven't heard any other rumors besides the Igers and the Jobs of the world. So
well, and we heard that Barack Obama one from Simmons as well. Again,
who squashed it?
Well, he said he hadn't talked to Michelle about it yet. That doesn't mean he won't eventually.
But the Suns are looking good.
I know on firsthand experience, if I ask somebody, hey, you want to go do this? And they say, I got to check with my wife, that means they're out. Okay. And I know this because I work with this guy.
That's not true. Sometimes I just lie because I don't want to do it. So
I know. That's my point.
Any final thoughts on the ownership side of things here? Anything else we can read from this?
I think Joel in the comments brings up the larger point. At least we're getting Sarver out, but yes, it would be nice if he could sell to someone who wasn't going to make him look good by comparison. So hopefully that's not where we're headed. I think we're just headed towards whoever's going to offer the most money, but you never know. Like a guy like that, he's definitely not going to sell to a guy that the fan base is happy about because he's pissed at the whole situation.
Well, I think Saul brought up a good point, though. The NBA isn't going to allow somebody else that's going to be immensely problematic into this. So if Sarver chooses a group, they'll say, we're not going to vote to approve that sale. You're going to have to find somebody else.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think if somebody comes in with a $5 or $6 billion offer, they're not going to give a shit who it is. And that's what worries me.
I think, I don't know, in this day of an age of bad ownership groups leading teams, like for instance, what's happening out in Washington with Dan Snyder,
right?
What's happened now twice in the NBA in the last decade with now Sarver and Donald Sterling. Like, you have to be careful. You have to be careful because, yeah, you might make an extra $1 billion, but you might also cost yourself an extra $1 billion in terms of advertising and revenue streams on the back end. So I think the NBA is going to do their very best. And again, like the NBA, for the most part, has prided itself on trying to do the right thing and being, an advocate for, social injustice and things of that nature. So to bring in somebody who would counteract that just doesn't seem prudent. So I have trust that the NBA is going to vet whoever it is, but that trust is probably at like a 70%.
I have one name that I think would be great at this. That I don't
have enough money.
I am all in on. It's actually me.
Oh,
and I have a plan on how to get the cash.
You're gonna get rid of the turquoise jerseys first.
No, I won't. I actually I'm all in on those now. I have flipped. I would get rid of the white and purple and give something new to the people. But you want to know what my plan is?
What's that?
I'm gonna spend lots of money at the Underdog Fantasy app on the pick'ems. I'm gonna get one of those 20-time multipliers by picking 5 different athletes, higher or lower, and then I'm going to just keep rolling that forward until I get to 5 billion. So I'll see you in about 20 years, but I'm going to keep doing it. And if you want to get in on the Underdog Daily Fantasy app, go to underdogfantasy.com or download the app, sign up using promo code PHNX, and they will match your first deposit up to $100. No questions asked. I love this app, not just because of the pick'em, but the daily fantasy, because as I'm proving in the company fantasy football league, I lose attention to detail after a while on something like that. So like 6 weeks in, it just starts to go down. So if I just have to worry about one night and picking a game for fantasy, I'm much better at it.
I thought you were going to say like you were dominating a fantasy or something. I was like, wait, no, you're not.
No, like I'm good out the gate. And then I crap the bed because I'll forget a week to look at my lineup. Whatever the case may be. And
I'm just not trying to go to Waffle House, man. That's kept me dedicated the whole season.
But with Underdog Fantasy, you don't have to worry about that. One day, same game. It's sitting there. You can pick your team, go up against your friends. It's great. I love it. I know you guys do too. So download that Underdog Fantasy app. Use that code PHNX and get a deposit up to $100 matched when you start out there. And then, our friends over at Four Peaks, we had quite the entertaining day when it came to Four Peaks. Over 150 people RSVP'd for our World Cup watch party out there to watch USA and Wales tie. I still don't understand how in a major event you can tie, but apparently you can in soccer. But that didn't stop everybody out there from having a good old time.
We don't dissuade people from watching the game and coming out to have a good time.
Because one idiot says something like that, it's going to dissuade the most popular game in the world.
There's a lot of idiots that say a bunch of stupid shit, and some of them are pretty highly thought of by a segment of this country.
Well, this idiot ain't going to stop you because I actually enjoyed the game. You can enjoy it out at Four Peaks.
You should have seen the crowd. Like, cool. Look at our social. Mm-hmm. It was a packed house. And I tell you what, and if you can't go to a sporting event, which a lot of us cannot, holy shit, this is the next best thing. It felt like you were there. At USA chants, everybody was having a blast. Chris is in the chat. She said it was so much fun. You gotta come check it out. Tomorrow is a morning game, Mexico. That'll be fun. But man, it's a good time.
It is a good time. And guess what? You can drink beer while watching the game out there. At Four Peaks, you can get $3 specials on Wow Wheat and Kilt Lifter. It is a fun time. We highly recommend you get out there. You can look for the Eventbrite link on our social and in the description to this show as well. Get out there for our next watch party tomorrow morning. Next, I want to get into, Gerald, you wrote a really great article today about the current starting lineup with some of these injuries starting to find a rhythm. Tell the people a little bit about it, and let's talk about it.
Yeah, the one thing that stood out to me is the fact that obviously, at 10-6, this team is not taking the league by storm like we saw last year, and injuries are a big part of that. They're missing Chris Paul and Cam Johnson. And for a lot of teams, like missing 2 guys plus 3, if you include Crowder, would be enough to kind of backslide. And we've seen a little bit of that. We saw the Orlando game, they just weren't competitive. The Heat game, lost by 1. Jazz game, lost by 1. And these are areas that they kind of thrived, especially in the crunch last year. But they are learning to start games and finish games with a totally new starting 5, guys that weren't often in that position. Payne was a little bit last year, but Torrey Craig was kind of maybe a couple of spot starts last year. And it just kind of struck me that, like, okay, you're missing Cam Johnson. They're missing Jae Crowder at the 4 spot. Their third 4 is the guy who's now starting, and he's having a tremendous season so far. Like, he's been really good. He's been good defensively. He's been cutting. He's been a maniac attacking the offensive glass like we've talked about. And the 3-point shooting, I think he's shooting 42% from 3. Like, he's just been really good, and we can talk about him and Payne a little bit, but I just want to get your guys' thoughts on what has stood out, because the first quarter defense has been a problem, and that's been an adjustment for the starting 5. But it seems like that Knicks game at least was a step back in the right direction.
I think the biggest thing that I would take away is that Payne and Torrey Craig have bounced back. And I know, Payne likes to think that statistically he wasn't that bad last year, but the numbers say otherwise. And I know a bounce back was a big deal, not only for him, but also for this team, because they need him to thrive at a high level to offset some of the games that Chris Paul's not going to play in. And that was kind of the theme going into the season, is like, give Chris Paul some more rest. However that should come about, whether by injury or by actual just benching him for minutes and stretches. So I appreciate the fact that Payne had put a lot of effort into bouncing back. But Torrey Craig, to me, has been low-key phenomenal. His effort, his energy, he gives the Suns multiple second chance opportunities, even after you think, okay, well, they secured the rebound, they're moving the other way, then he'll get a steal or he'll deflect a pass or whatever. Torrey Craig's effort, for those 2 guys specifically, they have so much more influence than people realize in terms of their energy and what that energy gives off to the rest of the team. It really keeps them going. And honestly, a reason why they even are 10-6 right now, because without those 2, I know we like to talk about Cam Johnson and Chris Paul, but without those 2 being in this lineup right now, they would probably be below 500.
Torrey Craig is where I'm at. We worried when Cam Johnson went out, where's the 3-point shooting going to come from? In general, we've worried about that for the Suns. And, Torrey has come out, and it's not just the corner He's hit him from the top, from the elbow. He's hit his 3-pointers at the highest clip of his career, and that has been the most impressive thing for me. And we've never denied his heart or hustle. Even when he struggled shooting last year, you knew when Torrey Craig was in there for minutes, he was going to hustle and get you things. So for a guy that really, like you said, coming into this year was going to be the third power forward, he's been amazing as a starter.
Hello, just to answer your question real quick. They're asking, how can we be missing 3 starters while 3 starters are still playing?
Right.
That's not math, Girth.
Right.
Make the math.
Right. So to make the math, I should have clarified not starters, but starting caliber players, because if Cam Johnson goes down with that meniscus tear and Jae Crowder is actually in the building, guess what? You still have a starting caliber guy. With him gone, you're missing 3 guys that could be starting for you, depending on how you want to look at. Jay should have been starting, or Cam's injured, whatever.
And technically, we don't know if Jay would have sat the bench or started because we never got that opportunity, even though we kind of know we know.
Right.
So,
yeah.
So basically, we're saying last year they had 6 starters, is what we're
exactly. And that's kind of, it's funny, but Monty has always talked about Cam Johnson as like, we view him as a starter that happens to come off the bench, and that's a luxury for us. So I'm sure he would have said the same thing about Jay if Jay were around. But yeah, going back to Torrey real quick, he ranks 169th in total minutes so far this season, but he is tied for 41st in total offensive rebounds. So he's a guy that, despite the fact that, he was coming off the bench, now he's in the starting lineup, he's getting more minutes now. But he hasn't had as many minutes as a lot of these guys, and he is crashing like a madman when that ball goes up. And he's a huge part of the reason, him and DA, why the Suns are 8th in offensive rebounds per game, which is something they have not typically done well.
Yeah, Boosty in the chat says, is Jay starting caliber, or does he just think he is? I'm a little worried this is one of Jay's burner accounts, and he's just trying to know where we sit.
He's trying to out people. No, he's still starting caliber. I think you look at last year, that starting 5 was one of the best starting 5s in basketball. Like, they were an elite unit. And obviously in the playoffs that didn't hold up, and Jay was inconsistent. The Pelican series, he was awful. The Mavs series, he was great. But I do still think he's a starting caliber player. I just think the move this season would have been to put the better starting 4 ahead of him.
Yeah, the thing that, since this starting lineup's kind of been reshuffled due to injury, they've been inconsistent, though. I think that's fair to say, right?
Yeah, and like, you look at their net rating overall, I think they're a minus 17.5, that 5-man group, the starting lineup. And a lot of it has been because of like games like the Utah game where they give up 42 points in the first quarter. There's a bunch of defensive miscommunications, and that's something that they had to work through. Monty said they made it a point of emphasis, and Book was saying, yeah, when they come to us in the meetings with like, this is what we need to focus on, we're usually pretty good the next game about actually implementing it. And we saw it against the Knicks, because it was only 22 points on like 36% shooting. They were really good defensively. They locked in, and they got games off on the right foot. When they've been able to do that, they haven't had to dig themselves out of holes, which when you're down Chris Paul and Cam Johnson is a little harder.
What's weird to me, though, is the defense has taken such a hit, but when I think Payne, when I think Chris Paul, I don't think that those are the core of the Suns' defense. So I found it a little weird that they've dropped so significantly in defense since this new starting lineup.
It's not because of those two. I promise you that. It's because of one other guy, mostly. And
I think I know where you're going.
It is
Landry Shamet, right?
Yeah. I mean, no, honestly, it has been because of DA. Like,
he's the anchor.
DA's defensive rating right now in the NBA at the center position is not very good, and it's not where the norm has been. And he's been deficient defensively. He's been out of position a couple of times, and if you're the anchor, listen, the rest of that chain's got to be solid. Otherwise, that boat's fucking floating off. And that's what's happened too many times. He's been floating off way too many times away from the paint when his guy's not a threat on the perimeter, or his guy's not even in a position to where you need to be pulled away from the paint. So you don't have that rim protector back there. You don't have somebody that can be strong on the boards as well. So you're giving other teams more opportunities at the basket. Like, everything hinges on DA, especially when Chris Paul is not there. Because Chris Paul is, if DA is the backbone, then Chris Paul's the brain. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
And that's how this team is kind of constructed. So when you don't have Chris Paul, DA has to be both. He's got, because he can see everything, and he just has not done a very good job this season of doing that. And so last 2 games, especially the fourth quarter against the Jazz and last game, much better effort, much better all the way around defensively. And I think you saw that in the performance. But I think that's why the defense is taking a step back, because he has taken a step back.
Right. When you're missing Chris and when Jay's not around, you're missing 2 guys that are the veterans, the guys that are big communicators, and like you're saying, that just know where you need to be on the floor, know the rotations you need to make. And not that Mikal and DA don't know those things, but it's different when they're kind of the point of attack in the pick and roll versus now they're directing everything. And they've got 2 guys that aren't typically starting, aren't typically playing this caliber of like starting caliber talent on the other team to direct as well. So I think that's part of it. Cam Payne has been very good defensively this season. Torrey Craig too. It's just a matter of kind of getting on the same page chemistry wise. And we saw that in the Jazz game over and over. There were so many slips that just kind of went right by, guys looking at each other. There was the one where Torrey was like stamping his feet because he was like, what are you doing? So Torrey said those kind of things can be frustrating, but they're good for you. You take it on the chin, you learn from them, and you get better at that communication. And hopefully the Suns are going to push it that way. I think the 6 games between the Philly game when Chris Paul went down and the game before the Knicks game, they were dead last in first quarter defense and putting themselves in a hole. And then, we saw them push towards the right direction. Now we need to see it consistently. Now they got to build on it against teams that are not the New York Knicks.
Det Nibel in the chat said, I noticed DA was more vocal on the court against the Knicks. CP3 and Jay not being there is actually good for DA's growth. And I agree.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to get your shit kicked in for you to understand like how you need to change and adapt to the circumstances that have been presented in front of you. And DA had not done a very good job of that earlier on in this season. I hope he's kind of starting to turn a corner right now. I don't really care. Honestly, stats are cool, and that's fantastic. I don't really care about stats. I care about what are you doing out there to make yourself a valuable asset to your team. Jae Crowder, you never know how the hell he's going to shoot, but you can never question Jae Crowder's ability to understand the intangibles, to be in the correct position, to be an attribute to that defense and keep things flowing in the right direction. You can never question that about Jae Crowder. DA has to understand that as well. And I think when things are taken off his plate and he only has 1 or 2 things to have to focus on, he does very well. But right now in this season, it's been more like 4 or 5, 6 things that he has to focus on. And he just hadn't done a very good job of adapting to that, in addition to however he felt about coming back to this team this season and the feels and all this other stuff. I hope he's starting to turn the corner. I have faith that he will. It's just, again, there's a lot of stuff at play here as to why the defense had taken a step back.
With great power comes great responsibility, right? I think we're seeing the responsibility part coming to DA now, where he doesn't have those guys that he can defer to for leadership on defense. He has to take the lead there.
Connor Brum says, Saul, they have stats for that, though. No, not necessarily. You know what I mean? Like, talk about, like, making sure that you're recovering in a position to help a teammate be able to actually recover to a guy that's wide open in the corner. Those small little things, slapping the ball from going out of bounds or diving for a loose ball, like, certain things, there just aren't, like, I know diving on the loose ball, they do keep track of that, but there are certain things that just come throughout the flow of a game. Communicating with a teammate, there's no stat for that. You know what I mean? You're not going to, DA said, get your ass back there right now 45 times.
They measure it in decibels.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the hustle things, obviously, is what we're talking about.
Will Reed brings up an interesting question. We've kind of dabbled into it, but I'm just going to say let's jump in. If Cam Payne keeps playing this way, will CP3 potentially have to share some starting minutes?
I'm gonna say it like this. I'm gonna say it like my favorite Wildcat of all time, Steve Kerr, said when Judd Bushler and him were talking about Michael Jordan coming back, and Steve says, "Does Michael come off the bench?" And Steve Bushler said, generally, as a rule of thumb, if you have your statue outside the stadium, you don't come off the fucking bench. And to me, generally, if you're a no doubt Hall of Famer and you haven't done anything egregious enough to be sitting the bench, you don't sit the bench. You don't do that to Chris Paul. That's not happening. If they bench Chris Paul, it's because Chris Paul said, I think this is in the best interest of our team. And I don't see that happening. Not in a selfish way. I just think that Chris Paul still feels like he has something to give, and deservedly so. You have to give him that opportunity. I don't care if he goes 0 for the next 820. He's earned that respect in the league for you to keep throwing him out there in the starting lineup.
Yeah, I'm already preemptively dreading when that column is written by somebody.
Pretty sure somebody
it's
already
going to happen.
If
It's
he
already in the
hasn't, I
works.
know exactly who's going.
I know exactly who's going to.
He's
as well.
already working on it.
I think he just said Colt McCoy should start over Kyler Murray.
He's already got one under his belt. He's ready. But I will say, like, I think there is obviously something to campaign starting. He's talked a lot about how he gets in a better rhythm when he is starting and gets to play through his mistakes, something that early in his career he didn't really get to do. He would get pulled whenever he made a mistake. And, you know, if we could pull up the graphic, Monty has said some glowing things about the trust that they've been able to establish. He said he's gotten to a place with us, with me, where there's a trust level now. He's had this time now with Chris being out to get settled in that role. And what I don't want him to do is back off at all when Chris does come back. We want him playing the same way he's playing right now. So, like, obviously they're seeing the great results. They're not blind. They know what he's doing out there, but they already know that Chris is going to be starting when he comes back. Everybody knows that. And it makes sense because your highest ceiling is not with Campaign as a starter and Chris Paul, you know, being a super six man on a $30 million contract. Like,
Look, I think it's simple. Do you trust 15 years of a track record or 15 games?
Right.
I love Campaign. I think he's been spectacular, but I'm going to trust the 15 years of Chris Paul as a starting point guard over the 15 games of Campaign.
I'm not even trying to hear that right now.
What are you smirking at?
Because my man was like off the Campaign like train like before the season even started. He was like, well, then when they show you who they are, then you have to believe them. And I'm like, no, he can bounce back. He had one bad year.
Okay.
He had 1.5 good seasons with us. Why can't he be the same guy as before? And he is now.
Okay, one third of the season. Show me all show me 2 more thirds, and I'm going to believe. I'll buy in. But I do. I have nothing against Campaign the guy. Campaign the guy is spectacular, and his story is unbelievable. I just, I want a title, and you all know my stance on.
I'm gonna say this. I will say this. Based on how Chris Paul's playing, if you don't have Campaign playing at a super high level, you can forget about a championship.
Exactly.
Right. And that's the key, I think, for him is like, okay, Campaign's been great as a starter. Now can he do it when you bring him off the bench halfway through the first? And he's basically playing with the starters. Like he's talked about, I feel a little bit pressured or like I'm rushed to go in and make an impact right away when I'm coming off the bench versus settling in. They need to find a way to get him to settle in when he's out there coming off the bench or when he's playing with a lot of bench guys.
You know what I could see? Them split minutes where they both play about 24, 25 in a game potentially. If there's a game where CP3's struggling and Campaign is in a rhythm, I could see Monty stick with him.
I don't think it would be a 1-for-1 swap. I don't think they would split minutes like that. I could see Campaign coming in beside Chris Paul to give him some more minutes, but I don't think you're ever going to see 24-24 split evenly at the point guard position, or even a 28-22 or 20 split. You know, I think that's just not what's going to happen.
I do think that Monty could stick with a Campaign on games that he's hot going into those final moments.
I hope so.
Hopefully.
Well, he did already this season. There was that one game where he normally brings Campaign in at the 6-minute mark of the fourth and then brings Chris back in at the 3-minute mark to close. And Campaign was playing well, and Chris told him just close with Cam. So Chris is not like this, proud guy that has to be out there if he sees his teammate rolling. Like he's willing to kind of hand over the wheel a little bit. I think we've seen that more this season.
Yeah, it's
than
different when you do it once, though.
Well, but
he's done it before too.
But to Chris Paul's credit, like you can't lead by example if you're trying to hold other people back from what's best for the team, right?
Yeah,
and I think that's part of his own leadership. Hey, and listen, guys, like we've all been there when we've done something, either playing with the kids or playing at the park with other people, where you realize, oh shit, I don't got it anymore. Like I used to be able to do this and now I can't. Like
I realized that when I was 10.
And I think Chris Paul understands that. I think he's starting to see that. Hell, this injury by itself, like damn, I used to be able to recover like that, and now it's taken me 2-3 weeks longer than it normally would. So I do love the fact that it feels like this team's mentality is in the right place, and that's because you have guys like Chris Paul on the toe.
We did get a super chat
Oh,
that
that's right.
I want to
We did.
get to here before we move on. It's Jeff says, is it safe to say we miss Killa Cam than CP3? Also, can we pay Shaq to come in and teach GA how to be dominant and center in the NBA, please? Okay, unless Shaq can teach him how to grow 2 or 3 more inches and bulk up like Shaq did. Shaq was just a different beast physically.
Dude, when people talk about DA and Shaq, I want to pull my hair out. That's not the comparison. It never will be the comparison, and it never was the comparison. Shaq was phenomenal because of his physical traits and abilities, right? But his fundamentals were not the greatest.
No, and he was lazy at times.
Yeah, so you can't really put him in that category. To me, DA is much better suited to become like a David Robinson or a Hakeem Olajuwon because he needs to build those skill sets, and those are more attainable than just growing and being a physical force. Like, if you just go back and watch rookie Shaq, and you will completely be like, I don't know what the fuck I was thinking, because that dude was ridiculous.
Like, totally different types of players. I see kind of like a Patrick Ewing a little bit as far as the mid-range touch and that type of thing.
I like Pat.
Yeah, but they're just different skill sets, different mentalities as well. And DA, to be fair, had a very good game last night. Like, I know the free throws stood out, but at least he was getting there. Like,
Yes,
and that's what
yes.
we like. He's not going to shoot 1 for 5 from the free throw line most nights.
Yeah, that's an exception, not the rule.
Exactly. So he's a 75% shooter, which is good. It's good for a guy his size. And you'll take that, but we just need to see him get there more. I loved when he was putting the ball down, spinning, creating contact and going up into the bat. Like, those are the types of things that you love to see. So again, just like the rest of the starting 5, pushing towards that consistency. We saw it against a bad team, that's the Knicks. Now let's see it against, well, the Lakers are also a bad team on Tuesday. But in the future, like, let's see them
it the
build,
next time we play a good team.
like, let's build on that. And like, you know, we've seen it with a lot of these guys. Like, Payne's averaging 19 and 6 on like 45, 44 shooting splits. Like, he's been really good. And this will be good. This will benefit them in the long run too. That's one thing that they've talked about is like, yes, we've lost a couple of close games, and yes, Payne has made some mistakes, but Monty pulled him aside at practice after the Jazz game and was telling him, like, why don't hang your head? Like, this is going to be good for us in the long term. Just let plays develop, slow it down, and we'll improve from here.
And just to be clear, like the Shaq comparison, yeah, Shaq was phenomenal, and he got away with a lot of things in terms of his fundamentals. And yes, he was a skilled basketball player. I'm not trying to take that away from him, but some things you can do at 7'1", 300 that you can't do at 6'11", 240. Like, you just can't. Also, let's be real. In today's NBA and all the flopping and all the charges and all the, you take one elbow to a chest and somebody's dead.
Different
like
game.
Shaq probably would have been in foul trouble a lot more than he was now. Also, he had like a size 38 foot. I mean, like,
Right.
Yeah, of course his footwork was phenomenal because guys had to stand like 5 feet away from him just to get around it.
Right. He was a physical and athletic marvel, like, just unbelievable touch and skill for a guy that size. Like, that type of combination is not something that we see ever.
Yeah, I've stood next to Shaq. I've stood near DA. There's no comparison
Nope.
in physical specimens. Bootsy in the chat was saying, I've always thought DA's passing has been underrated.
Yeah,
I agree. Bootsy, I think is Boosty, excuse me, is new in the chat. So welcome
Boosty.
but I've enjoyed your comments. But that one I think is fair as well. You know what I think is phenomenal and what I think I need in my life more. Well, I was going to say DA performing like he did, but I'll also go OGs as well.
Okay, there you
no,
go.
Actually, I was going to say OGs. I just want to give it to you. OGs.
Oogies.
Can Lindsay come back and host this thing? I'm so out of rhythm with it. OGs has been spectacular for us. They've been a great partner. And I got to tell you, I told this story last week, but at our Friendsgiving, I took one of the sativas. and it
So you took a little half.
I took a half. I took a half. I shared it with another coworker. I'm not going to out that coworker. That's their own business. But I shared it. Our producer was kind enough to give it to me, a sativa, and it changed my experience of the party. It was spectacular. Usually I sit in the corner. I'm like, I don't want to be talked to.
Wow.
Jesus,
And I actually talked to people.
That's
I had
such
fun.
bullshit.
It was a good
I could
time.
tolerate all of you
You're
assholes.
not a
thanks
completely
to
different
OGs.
person when you take OGs.
Oh,
That's not what's happening.
No, I
I
was-
literally took half of an OG's, and within 30 minutes, I looked at Saul and I was like, "He's a goner.
Yeah.
He's out for
I
the
had a
count."
good. I had a good time.
Mm.
It was nice. I'm not saying it like all of a sudden I was you Saul or anything, but
No,
I
took a full
was
OGs.
less anxious than I usually
Guys,
am.
I'm telling you, like, one of my favorite experiences was going to Summer League with my man right here. And we took an OGs and we watched basketball. And Espo was just like, how much time is left in the game?
I got
bro.
lost walking the concourse.
He
It's
walked
a circle.
all the way around the concourse and came back and was like, oh, you're here already? I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? It was so much fucking fun. It was awesome. Like, it's just good times. And it doesn't make you feel like fucking, like, you're not tripping balls or anything like that.
No.
It's just nice. It's a
It's
nice, good
relaxed.
feeling. It relaxes you. You're just vibing, baby. That's
So,
all it is.
As always, you can find OGs at your local dispensary. You must be 21 and older to enjoy, but we highly recommend it. They are fantastic with us. And you know what also is fantastic? The Game Time app.
Mhm.
You can, all these other ticket services having all sorts of problems right now. You see it in the headlines. I mean, it's embarrassing for them. Game Time is just fast, secure, reliable. It's what I like to get my tickets on. And if you wait till the last minute, that's okay, because you actually could save up to 60% off of that face value. I know you used it this weekend, so didn't
Yeah, I
you?
went to the U of A game, bought 8 tickets for $96, and I was the
That's insane.
11th row up from in the corner of the end zone. It was fantastic. I bought too many tickets, so I ended up giving some away because I was like, damn, $8 done.
$96 is like the service charge on most other
Yeah,
ticket
yeah.
apps. Like,
You
was
sent
fantastic.
you sent that picture, and I was pissed that I didn't say, "Hey, can I have one of those 3 tickets
Yeah.
you were offering?"
Yeah,
It was an unbelievable view.
yeah, it was fantastic. It was a great time.
So-
It was a great time all the way until we got our ass kicked.
Yeah, well, the losing sucks,
Yeah.
but you
the
know.
money was good, and the app is phenomenal.
If you want to take somebody to a game, get tickets for yourself, whatever the case may be, use that link in our description. Game Time app, it is what you need to get good deals. We got to talk about this next thing just because we've talked about it every other time it's happened. TMZ Sports came out with a report today.
Oh no,
Devin Booker
Oh,
and Kendall Jenner
no.
reportedly split up over their busy schedules. How did this just become an issue? Haven't they always had busy schedules?
Yeah, that's a tough one to understand. Like, I don't get it. They both are very, very, very insanely busy people. So why?
well, I mean, didn't she's launched a tequila company in the last year or so? So maybe that added
tequila.
so
Because
maybe that added to it. I haven't tried it, so I
Does
can't speak.
does
on
No,
any of
it.
this-
no celebrity tequila is worth drinking.
I'm always
just
trying.
I don't think
always
she's
down to
making
try.
it in, herself either. I don't think.
No, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Celebrity tequilas are just watered down versions of shit. I'm just saying. I'm not saying I'm a tequila purist,
I'm gonna disagree.
but I'm a tequila purist.
I'm gonna disagree with that one because I've
It's
had
because you're
it.
21. That's why. Pipe down, little person.
Who is your celebrity tequila that
Hey,
you endorse?
Grown
over
folks
there?
are talking about tequila.
She has had a tequila drink now, okay? So she would like to speak on the issue.
She just
Oh,
threw her
Emma.
headset down and
Emma,
is walking
come
away.
back. Just
Come
wait.
back.
Come on.
Oh, we're getting the double bird now.
Oh man.
Wait, tell us what your thoughts were there, Emma. What were we gonna say?
I can't have anything nice.
What is the celebrity tequila you prefer? Is it
Yes.
Paris Hilton's? What are we talking about?
God
No,
help
I
you if you
was
say
just-
the Rock's tequila. I swear.
Ew.
Thank you.
No, I did try Kendall's tequila, and I will agree with you. Saul, certain tequilas like that celebrities endorse
Mhm.
and release, fucking dog water. It's nasty.
Oh.
Kendall's,
Yeah?
it tasted like just normal like well tequila. I wouldn't
Okay.
say that it was
Okay.
like the best tequila I've ever had.
All right.
Gilbert in the chat says Clooney's one is yum. You know what we should do? We should do a celebrity tequila taste test.
Oh yes,
there we go.
I love it.
Now we're talking.
Okay, we'll do a celebrity tequila taste. When's the next road game?
It's not for a while.
Okay,
I think they play Tuesday and Friday at home, and then either the next one or the one after that.
5 of their next 6 are at home.
If Saturday is the road game, we will do a celebrity tequila taste testing in the pregame or postgame. We'll
1
decide.
tequila, 2 tequila, 3 tequila.
Maybe
4.
I should DM Kendall and say, hey, can we get a case?
It's Monday.
Hey, hold on.
The next one's a Monday.
Let's not slide into Kendall's DMs right now. Nobody needs that. But let's. Do you think this has any impact whatsoever on Book?
I mean, who's to say?
I mean, I'm sure it does a little bit.
We just
I don't mean like is he not upset? I mean, do you think this impacts basketball? Because this always gets brought up, and I know the curse, the Kardashian curse, the Jenner curse. I don't mean that. I just mean does when they break up, do you think it actually affects his game?
I think we're all people, and I think we go through things, and we feel a certain way. It just depends. Again, we don't know the intimate details of their relationship. We don't know if like they came to kind of the end of the road and they were like, you know what, we've kind of maxed this out. Let's just go our separate ways. Cool. Or if it was just like, damn, I wish we had more time together, but this is really, really hard. And I don't think we can keep this up. We don't know. And so to kind of just guess on the level of impact it could have on either person, it just wouldn't be fair.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I just don't really want to speculate on, I hate talking about this type of stuff.
You only had 20 points yesterday, so it must have been that.
I hate that type of shit. Yeah. And I hate the Kardashian curse type of thing. Like Lindsay has said best herself, like stop blaming men's shortcomings for women, or stop blaming women for men's shortcomings.
Yeah.
And
vice versa.
Obviously I hope it does have an impact on your mental and your emotional, but I think it sounded like in the article it was an amicable thing, and that they just realized like we're both really busy. So hopefully it's not something that bugs him too much, and hopefully our boy Book is doing okay.
Look, this is Book's MVP season, and I think it's becoming pretty clear that he's going to have to do MVP things for this team to be in the position that we want them to be in. So I don't think anything's gonna affect it. Of course, that's when the porn bots come into the chat. Can we officially? I want to put an embargo on anything Kendall Book from now on. If they get back together, if they break up, I don't want any of it on the show.
No,
can we embargo it?
No.
Well, fine. All right.
No, because if they got married, then we're not going to talk about it.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about it.
Okay, fine. Fine.
It was worth a try.
You know what we can't embargo?
Do that to sweet baby Kendall.
You know we can't embargo? Trade talk. Because trade talk makes the NBA world go round.
So close.
Is it Tuesday?
No, it's not.
No.
We have a pregame on Tuesday
in our hearts and minds.
So Mark Stein over the weekend, former New York Times writer, ESPN guy, now doing his own thing on Substack, which is a great read if you aren't subscribed to it, talked about Jae Crowder and the trade rumors and said, okay, so that deal with Milwaukee got close but fell apart, but Atlanta is a serious contender for Jae Crowder.
Yeah, let's bring up the graphic and read what he wrote.
Oh my God.
Well, we won't read all of it.
Who the fuck put this on a graphic?
Jae Crowder's still a Sun. How much longer that'll be the case, we'll see. But the buzz was that Phoenix was making progress on a Crowder deal, one that would likely land him with one of his most ardent suitors in Milwaukee. But that trade didn't materialize, and it resurfaced that Atlanta remains a potential Crowder destination that should not be discounted. Obviously, when you bring up the Hawks, John Collins' name comes up. That was shot down by Gambo, as we've established with that new graphic that we had.
Don't fear the Reaper.
But leak sources confirm that Utah is among the teams to express interest in John Collins, which was interesting to me. And he went into another graph or another section about the Jazz and what they're doing. But it basically sounds like what we suspected. Like they are not going to be trading off their guys to tank. Like at least not yet.
Say three-way.
Like trade?
Where we go?
Yeah, three-way. What the fuck do you think I'm talking about,
So I'm
Gerald.
still stuck on the Kendalls.
No, oh my God, no. That's not what I'm talking about. No, I'm talking about a three-way trade, you gross
I
balls.
thought, well, normally it's a 3-team trade. So when you said 3-way, I was like, is there any more to that?
I knew what I was doing, Gerald.
Okay. Like, yeah, it's something to keep an eye on. And Atlanta was one of the teams that we brought up before we started hearing rumors about where he might go, because you look at that roster, it makes sense for them to get Jae. And they have a couple of guys that the Suns would obviously love to have back in that type of swap. So, nothing tangible here, but A, Utah is probably not going to blow it up unless things take a huge turn south. And B, like, keep an eye on Atlanta, Milwaukee, among the other teams we've talked about.
I mean, any scenario where we could get Jordan Clarkson and or Larry Markkinen
Yeah.
and Aaron Holiday back from Atlanta.
Dreaming is free,
all
so
about. So let's go. I thought this was an exercise in dreaming right now.
I'm still on the give me either Bogdanovich and I'll be all right
I'll
in
take
this
that too.
as well. But so news, but not really news. Eventually we'll get to the bottom of this when James Jones finally goes, enough. I'm just dealing this guy.
Right.
Let's move on. So,
It's a tidbit. It's nothing substantial, but it's all we've got right now as we continue to wait for something to materialize and bring in another piece that can help this roster.
speaking of materializing, Saul, if I want some cash to materialize in my bank account this week, is there something on the DraftKings Sportsbook app I should be looking at?
Yes, but this is not for my friend Jose Sisiwama. Plug your ears, buddy, because this isn't going to be good. I'm taking the 49ers tonight in Mexico City. I think that's they're favored by 10,
Oh, wow.
which is kind of crazy, especially considering the Cardinals could have all their pieces back for today outside of Kyler. But I just don't see Colt McCoy beating that team. I know that he beat him last year, but it's a different animal. There he is in the chat. What, you bastard? Yeah, I know. That's my pick of the week. 49ers over the Cardinals tonight. Take the points.
Take the points. Take the money line. Whatever.
Yeah, we're taking the points. Minus 10. I think they're going to win by at least 10.
All right. Well, if you want to take the Cardinals, you really have started something. If you guys want to keep bagging on Saul, there is a Cardinals pregame show that you can go tell them what Saul
PHNX
said.
tailgate is what we call it.
It is the tailgate. They're pregaming it up for Monday night. You can continue to give Saul crap for that. But if you want to make the bet that the 49ers are going to win tonight, you can download that DraftKings Sportsbook app
Or the Cardinals.
now. Or the Cardinals?
Or the Cardinals. If you want to make a bet that the Cardinals win tonight.
I mean, if you want to lose your money, according to
see?
Saul, you
Yeah, I
can
wasn't trying to- Okay.
download that DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use the promo code PHNX. Place a $5 bet on any NFL team to win their game, and you're going to get $150 in free bets if they do. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with the code PHNX. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details.
There's actually, oh man, I'm trying to find it real quick. Damn it. Sorry. Keep going.
There's a point, a same game parlay you're looking for?
No, I'm
here?
actually looking at the college basketball lines for tonight. Yes, I am taking Arizona, but I want to make sure that I don't get this wrong because I want to make sure that I get the points right. Because tonight they're playing in the Maui Invitational along with a lot of other teams, Ohio State, San Diego State, Arkansas, like a lot of good teams in that because that's what we do. We play good teams. They're favored by 9.5. I would take Arizona, but I would not take the points.
Yeah.
I think they'll win by less than 9.
And you can stay up till like 4 a.m. to see Mike Luke's post-game show for that game. That game starts at 9:30 p.m. Arizona time. They're in Maui, right? So so that time in Hawaii is kind of a pain in the ass when you come back here. But you could watch the Cardinals and then watch the Wildcats as well. A couple people in the chat asking where Lindsay is. On vacation, but thank God she comes back tomorrow because this is tougher than it looks.
She's still been fired.
I love that you stick with that. Any final thoughts, gentlemen, in honor of Lindsay?
Come back soon.
She's not dead.
No,
She's
but she
coming back.
always asks that. So.
Oh yeah, no, we're good. I'm excited to see, see Campaign play some more, and also we have some cool stuff with Campaign. We actually talked to him.
Yeah, coming up on Wednesday, you can see that interview right here on the PHNX Sports YouTube page and in our audio feed. So look for that as well.
Catch me outside on the PHNX tailgate here in about another hour.
Well, 5 p.m. if you're watching us live. Otherwise, you can catch it on the replay on YouTube. Brian in the chat saying Espo talking about losing money. Kaminsky Cove is trashed. It's not. I've just sublet it to Atlanta for now. So that is what we have for you today. I am Espo. He is Saul Bookman. Follow him at Saul_Bookman on Twitter. You can follow Gerald Bourguet at Gerald Bourguet. If you follow at Bourguet Gerald, you're just going to be waiting a while for some tweets because there hasn't been much there. You can follow me at Espo. And remember, it's not losing money if you love the investment. Ahoy, hoy.
Hey yo, my lifestyle is retro. Tell the Phoenix Metro. Megas in control and he ain't never gonna let go. PHNX though, Lindsey, Gerald, Espo. Saw pass the ball, we here to turn up the tempo. Got to understand me, I'll always rep the family. Rally in the valley like